Well, welcome this morning, you guys. I'm so grateful for you to be here. My name is Dominic Insignius. I'm the leader here at the Heart, and today is a great day for you to be sitting in these chairs. We have a special Sunday experience for you today. Now, before we get into the message, there's something I want to share with you. We're in the middle of our Waymaker series, and the heart behind it's connected to our Waymaker offering. At the end of the year, each year, we have a special offering that we pray for and expect for and believe for to make a way for the coming year. Now, this year, our goal is $50,000, and we believe that with this money, what we're doing is half of the money that comes in, it's going directly back out into our community, and we're partnering with three great organizations: the Hayes County Food Bank, School Fuel, and the Southside Community Center. So half of every dollar that comes in is going to go right back out to those organizations who are already doing great things in this city before we even ever showed up. Now, the other half is going to be used to create and execute leadership opportunities for people at the Heart, but also for people in our community. Since we first started here at the Heart, our goal has always been to look beyond us. It's so easy in a church to just focus on the people here, focus on the people that are right in front of us, but we know that we are part of something larger that God has already been doing in this city and is going to continue to do way after all of us are long gone. So we want to be able to have our eyes focused outside of these walls as well. And that's what this is going to be able to do, is create these opportunities for leadership. Now, one of these things that we do each year is we have a church conference that we like to go to. Each year we're able to take a few people. It's called the C3 Conference. Last year we were able to take 15 people. This year, with partnering with you guys and with the Waymaker offering, we want to be able to take 30 or more. That means some of you in here might be coming to this church leadership conference. And I know when we talk about that, there's a few people who think that you have nothing to do with church leadership. That's for other people. That's for people who are in ministry. That's for people who are called to do ministry, whatever that means. And so I want to show you a video of someone who was able to come with us last year, who by her own word says that she doesn't feel qualified to lead, but I want to show you a glimpse of what God can do if you are willing to say yes to stepping into leadership. So let's draw our attention to the screen. It's our belief that you have leadership within you. So what you'll notice if you come to the Heart often, that anyone who comes up here who speaks will say that they are one of the leaders at the Heart, and you don't need to be in a leadership position. You don't need to have a leadership title to lead. And that's what we want to be able to awaken within all of us, to awaken within this city. We know and we believe that if we can awaken leadership and grow and foster that leadership within the people of this community, that if we can grow leadership, then we grow our community. If we can build leadership within our community, within this church, within this area, then we can grow and build this area. So that's part of our Waymaker offering. You can get all the information you need and more by going to theheart.church/Waymaker or asking us any questions you have at the Connect Center. So that's coming up on December the 8th, so we want to give you more information about that as well. I think that's it. Okay. I'm excited for you guys today. I want to invite somebody up here today. Yeah, come on up. Michaella, she leads our youth group, HC Youth, and she's going to tell you all about it. She's the one with the shark tattoo. Show them for proof, evidence real quick. Okay, so if you weren't here, she got a shark tattoo, which, if you know Michaella at all, is not like Michaella. So we were all very surprised. But I've invited her today because as we're in the middle of this Waymaker series, I asked Michaella a few weeks ago if she'd be willing to speak and talk to you about how God has made a way in her life. That's one of the things that we want to do, is be able to talk about how God is a waymaker of things that can happen, but God is doing more things than we can see. And last week we started off by being able to trust God to see that He is making a way, and that God gave us a way to do that with faith. So I wanted Michaella to come speak to you today on how God has made a way in her life. So let's put our hands together, please, and welcome Michaella Glover.
Well, I am so excited to be here. I feel like all day I've been like, I never thought this would happen, so I'm like, but I'm so excited, and there's so many people in this room that I love, and so I'm so excited that you're all here. Like you said, I'm Michaella, and I lead our youth ministry, HC Youth, which anyone who's ever had a conversation with me pretty much knows, because I can't talk without mentioning how much I love HC Youth. It is my favorite thing that I get to do. All of our middle schoolers and high schoolers get to come to our house every Thursday, and it is just my favorite thing to get to be a part of because they are the coolest. So if you don't know all of the youths here, you should get to know them. They are so cool. But today I'm going to be talking to you about how God has made a way in my life, and I've seen God make a big way in my life through community. So that's really what I want to share with you today. So first, I'll give you a little bit of a background of my life and my journey of faith, so you know what's going on. But I grew up, originally, I was born in Nebraska, then I lived in Ohio, then I moved here. But the way I went through it, I only remember going to church just on Christmas sometimes with family and stuff. So when I really think about childhood and everything, I feel like at first I was kind of indifferent about God. I didn't always know who he was. I guess I heard about him once a year on Christmas, but it's hard to have a relationship with someone you only hear about one time a year. So I didn't really have a relationship with God, didn't know much about Jesus, so didn't really care about that guy either. And as I went through my life, I just was kind of going, I guess. And once I got to high school, I already didn't know anything about God or anything, and then I started watching all these science documentaries because I love to know about space and everything. And I mean, I have a shark tattoo, so I like nature. But so I started watching all these documentaries and learning all these things about the world. And the more that I learned about how science can explain everything, the less room I needed a God that could explain everything. And so I just went on and learned all these things, and I was like, well, now I pretty much know how every single thing in the world works, so I don't need to believe in God. And I decided I was an atheist when I was in high school. That's what I would tell people. I didn't really have friends who believed in God at all, so in Ohio, so I didn't really have anyone telling me otherwise. So I decided I'm an atheist, pretty much smarter than everyone else. I know that God isn't real. I know all this stuff. So to me, it started to become like Christianity was like this fairy tale that some people needed to believe. And clearly I did not need to believe it. That's what I thought. And so I was just living my life, decided I was an atheist, going through school, and just hung out with my friends. Everything was great until my senior year. What I thought was the worst possible thing that could have happened to me is my family moved from Ohio to Texas. And I don't know if you can remember being a senior in high school, but your friends are so important and everything. And I pretty much thought my entire life was just ruined. I was like, well, I'm going to lose all my friends. We were going to go to the prom together. We were going to graduate together. I'm supposed to get a superlative in the yearbook. All these things that were so precious to me were just taken away. And so we moved to Texas my senior year, and I'm still an atheist. And when I just felt like I didn't have hope because I had nothing to have hope for. I was like, I'm going to live my life, and then I'm going to die. That's it. So I was just atheist and hopeless, and then we moved, and I was angry and bitter. I thought this was the worst thing ever. And so we moved, and we come down here, and this is the beginning of God making a way in my life through community, I guess, because I only made like 5 friends or less at Canyon Lake my senior year. That's where we moved. And they all were Christians, and they all would talk to me about their faith. Even my best friend got baptized our senior year, and I remember telling them, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in this stuff. You can talk to me about it, I guess, because we're friends, but don't try to get me to believe this. So that was what I went through, and I can see that God was already planning people in my life, but I was still like, no, I will not believe that. And I decided to go to Texas State. I'm actually graduating on December 13th, and I'm so excited. I know. So I decided to go to Texas State. I actually never visited the school or anything before I went because I had this whole life plan planned up in Ohio. But now I was just so hopeless and angry and bitter that I was like, well, guess what? I'm going to go to Texas State, and I'm going to commute, and I'm not even visiting the school before I go there. It's the only option because my life's already ruined. So I decided to come here. Well, I mean, here I am now. So I decided to go to Texas State, and I lived in my parents' house in Canyon Lake. And every day I would wake up, and I would drive 30 minutes and go to class. And then the second class was over, I would walk back to the parking garage and drive 30 minutes and go home. And eventually, I was just making no friends, and I was still hopeless and angry and bitter, and now I was feeling really lonely. Because eventually, we just keep going, and we can become so desperate for community because we know we're designed to have community, and when we don't have it, we can feel so lonely. And eventually, I was like, I really need friends. I started to feel so desperate after, just having no friends and being angry all the time, and who wants to be friends with someone who's like that? So eventually, I started trying to go to events, to try to join different clubs. I was like, I will do anything to meet people. There was one time, I've never even seen Harry Potter or read Harry Potter or anything, but I went to this Harry Potter festival because I was like, maybe that's my community. And so I went to this Harry Potter festival, and they made me wear this like witch hat, and I drank butterbeer, and I was like, well, this is not my community. So after that, I was like, I'll try something else. And so then I was at another event one day. I've still never seen Harry Potter. I was at another event. It was called De-Stress Fest. It was around midterms my freshman year. And they gave us fruit and massages, and they had music and all this stuff. And it was just get you to be de-stressed around midterms. And I was there, and I was volunteering at the fruit table. And that is when I met Abby Cliffle. She's right there. But I met Abby Cliffle, and we were talking. And I've been like hoping for a friend. And when I met Abby, we had all these things in common. She's like, I'm from Northeastern Ohio. And I'm like, me too. And then she's like, I'm an elementary education major. And I'm like, me too. And then she's like, I love Taylor Swift. And I'm like, me too. So I was so excited. We had all these things in common. And I'm like, this is the friend I've been waiting for. It's been like almost 2 years. I was waiting for a friend. And here she is. And then she was like, and I'm a Christian. I'm part of this club called Crew on campus. It's like a Christian club. You should come with me. And I was like, yeah, me too. And so I was like, I have to be friends with her. It's been so long. I'm so desperate for friends. I'll pretty much just do anything. And so we already had everything else in common, so I might as well just lie, make up the rest. And so here I was, an atheist, and I'm like, this girl believes this mumbo jumbo, but I guess I'll go through it. She loves Taylor Swift, so how bad can she be? And so I decided to go to Crew with her, and I was still an atheist, didn't believe in any of that stuff, but I made up this whole fake life story about how I'd been a Christian my whole life. And I was like, well, they'll just get them to like me. Because sometimes we're so desperate for community, and we just want to be seen so badly, we don't care what version of us that they're seeing. It wasn't the real me that she was seeing, but I just wanted to be seen by someone. And so I went to Crew with her, and that was the beginning of my community. But we all need community, and sometimes maybe you don't lie about something as big as that of your faith and your journey, but this week is Thanksgiving, and sometimes when we hang out with our family or a Friendsgiving or anything, we can be tempted to, when a certain topic comes up, just don't mention it. Or maybe we want to exaggerate some details or, just not bring up something. Maybe not a complete lie, but we can all feel that way sometimes. We just want to be accepted, and we want belonging. We want to be seen in our community because that's what we were designed for. Community can bring us hope, healing, love, joy, forgiveness. There's so much goodness we can get from getting to be a part of a community that we can't just find on our own. So now I'm going to share a Bible verse with you. This is Matthew 13, 3 through 8. And this is in NIV. But Matthew's one of the books of the Bible. It's the first book of the New Testament, and it tells us about Jesus' life here on earth and his ministry. And in this part of Matthew, Jesus had been becoming so famous that people just wanted to hear the things that he had to say. And he was becoming so famous that in this part particularly, there's this giant crowd of people, and they all just want to know what he has to say. So many people that he has to get on this boat, and they're on the shore of a lake, and he gets in the boat, and he's like in this boat out here, and then all these people are on the shore because they couldn't all fit. So he's out here on this boat trying to talk to all these people, and he tells them this story. It is called the parable of the sower, and he talks in parables and stuff so that we can understand and illustrate what he's saying to us. But I want to read this to you, the parable of the sower. It starts in verse 3. Then he, Jesus, told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still, other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 times what was sown. So the first thing that I think of when I read this is the odds are not good for these seeds. Because the farmer, which from context clues and research, I have deducted, the farmer is God, and he's out here sowing these seeds, and these seeds are us. And all these things that happen to the seeds, the getting covered by thorns, getting eaten by a bird, falling off the path, those are all the things that happen to us in our lives. But when you look at it, there's not really good odds for these seeds. And I don't think God or any farmer just haphazardly throws seeds around with the intention of them failing. I don't think if we're the seeds that God has intended on any of us failing. So there's all these things that happen. They get eaten by a bird, or you fall off a path, or you get burned by the sun. Just really not good for these seeds, because only some of them go to the good soil and actually grow. And so I was thinking about, how could God make a way for these seeds to grow? Because if we're the seeds, I believe God wants to make a way for each and every one of us here today to grow. And the way that I think God can make a way for these seeds, the way that God can make a way for us, is through community. Because when a seed falls off a path, community can be what comes and scoops it up and puts it right back on the right track. Or when a seed is getting covered by thorns and is feeling overwhelmed, community can be what clears the thorns and makes a way for you. Or when a seed falls on shallow soil, community can be what comes and scoops you up and plants you somewhere where you can grow deeper. Community can be how God makes a way. And God is already using community in your life right now to grow your faith. All we have to do is see it. Because I think of seeds, they don't often notice what helps them grow. Seeds don't notice who waters them or the wind that brings pollen or whatever seeds need to grow. I don't know. But seeds don't really notice that, and we often don't notice what community is in our life and what's helping us grow. I want to share this. I had to look at I have this yellow piece of paper I wrote all my notes. But when I went to Crew for the very first time with Abby that day, this was the story that they told, was the parable of the sower. And I remember sitting there, and I already sang these songs, and I have no idea what they're talking about. And then everyone pulls out their Bibles, and I'm like, don't have that. And then, but I have to keep up the facade. And then they start telling this story, and I remember sitting there, and from context clues, I figured out God is the farmer, and the seeds are us, and he wants to have a relationship with us. And I remember sitting there and thinking, well, if I have to be one of the seeds for this guy, I want to be the one with thorns, because he is not getting to me. Because I was still thinking, listen, I already know, I've seen all the documentaries, I know about science, I know this is crazy. All these people are believing a lie. But I was sitting there, and I heard this story, and obviously, here I am now, so I'm not still an atheist. But God made a way for me. If I was a seed that landed on thorns, it was community that made a way for me to be right here. And when I think about my journey of faith, if I think about my path from being the seed in thorns, and then I probably got eaten by a bird and probably fell off the path, and then probably got burned by the sun, and then I made it to the good soil, when I think about all that, I don't see my journey of faith as a list of events or actions that happened. I don't see it as places that I've been or anything. When I look at my journey of faith, I see a list of names of people that God used to completely change my life and make a way for me. And I want to share with you something in the Bible where there's a list of names. This is in Matthew 1, so a little bit sooner in Matthew. Matthew 1 to 17. I'm not going to read all of it. But this is the very first page in the New Testament, and I want to show you. It is literally a list of names. And this is the genealogy of Jesus, which means like his family tree. And so it's a list of all these names. I'll read some of it so you know what I'm talking about. This is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Perez the father of Hezron. And then I'll stop because it's pretty boring. But the whole point is I've always skipped this page of the Bible because I thought it was so boring. I'm not going to read a whole list of names, completely irrelevant to me. But this week I decided to take a different look. And this is what I found, and maybe you'll see it too. I always skip this because I thought it was just too boring and didn't relate, but when I do look at it more, this is a list from Abraham, who was, I already did research, he was 2,000 years before Jesus. So it starts with Abraham and it ends with Jesus, who is called the Messiah. And from Abraham to Jesus is 2,000 years, or 41 generations. And I think that is 41 generations of names that God used to make a way for Jesus. And he used Jesus to make a way for us. This is 2,000 years of people that God used to make a way. It was his community, his family, and it doesn't say what they did, where they lived, things that they said, or anything. It's just a list of who they are, their names. And it's easy to think, well, that's Jesus' family tree. What does that have to do with me? But when Jesus died on the cross for us, he adopted each and every one of us into God's family. And this list, Jesus' list and his family, is your family too. This is a list of names that God used for 2,000 years to make a way for us. And we all have that same beginning, first 2,000 years. But from Jesus to us right here this morning in San Marcos at the Heart has been 2,000 more years. And I think for each and every one of us from Jesus to now, there's a unique list of names that God has been using to make a way for you to be here this morning. God uses people to make a way in our life. And I want to challenge you to think of who is on your list and whose list are you on? Who in your life has made restarting. Who in your life has God used to make a way for you? Because when I think of people like Abby, there she is. When I think about people like that, Abby is someone in my life who God used to make a way for me to know him. But we also can think about whose list we're on. I want to point to one more thing in the end of the parable of the sower. The very last part, it says, other seed fell in good soil where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. We are on other people's list. God can use us to make a way in the lives of other people. He can use us, our little seed, to produce a crop of 160 or 30 times what was sown. You can have 100 times the impact in other people's lives around you. I know there's people at your job or in your neighborhood, in your family, in this room right now, where God can use you to make a way in their lives. And there's people in this room or your work or your family or your neighborhood where God has used them to make a way in your lives. So I want to share the end of my little story of how I got from hearing the parable of the sower and being a seed covered in thorns to standing here right now this morning. So I kept going to Crew, and I just kept going because they were so nice to me, because they were nicer than the Harry Potter people, and I just loved hanging out with them. And so I kept going, even though every week they would sing these songs, and I'm like, don't know about that. And they would say these stories, and I'm like, oh, why do they have to believe this? Why can't I have friends who are actually smart like me and know God isn't real? But I guess I can deal with it. And so I just kept going, and I don't remember any of the other messages I heard. I just remember the parable of the sower. I don't remember any of the songs we sang. I don't remember any of those things, but I remember how I felt every single week when I went there. I felt accepted like I'd never felt before and welcomed, and it was exactly what I had been so desperate for. And so I just kept going, and eventually, about 6 weeks later, not because of a miracle or sign that happened in my life, or I finally understood the words of the song, or a message just really struck me, 3 years ago today, on November 24th, 2016, I accepted Jesus into my life, and my life has been completely changed ever since. And so I call it my friendiversary with Jesus. So all morning I'm like, happy friendiversary! So I accepted Jesus into my life, and from then on, I actually did not come out with the truth. I did not tell anyone that I accepted Jesus, because I already told them this fake life story about how I'd been a Christian my whole life. So I was like, well, I'll just keep lying, obviously. And so I didn't tell anyone the truth, and I kept pretending, pretty much came out of the womb knowing the Lord, obviously. And I didn't tell anyone the truth until about 10 months later. And what changed for me is I came to the heart for the first time. And it was the first time, because I felt accepted at Crew, but when I came here, I learned another essential part of community, and that's honesty. God can make a way through community, but he can make an even bigger way when we choose to be honest in the community that we're a part of. And it felt such a difference in my life when I came here and was accepted for exactly who I am, the story that God has made in my life. And so then I told everyone the truth and was like, actually, was not a Christian when you met me. I was an atheist, and I told everyone, and no one was mad about it. And so originally, I'll tell you this is really funny. I was scared to tell anyone the truth because I started dating Lance, who's now my husband. We started dating, and he said, this was at the very beginning, he goes, I'm so glad I finally found a woman who's been walking with the Lord her entire life. And I was like, I only have known Jesus for 3 weeks. So I was like, I will never tell him. So yeah, that was pretty much why. And so, but eventually I told everyone the truth. He wasn't even mad. I told Abby. And I chose to get baptized. I started serving, and then about a year later, I was invited to join the leadership team here at the Heart. Then I started working here, and we started HC Youth, and then my life got exponentially better. And now I am raising my salary to work here full-time, and all this has happened because there's been community in my life that God has used to make a way for me, and I believe that's what he wants for each and every one of you. I know there's people in your life, maybe sitting right next to you in this room right now, that God wants to use to make a way for you. Yesterday I went to a basketball game. It was Corbin's basketball game. Oh, there he is. And I saw this school, and they had this sign. And the sign said, "Let our lives be full of both thanks and giving." And I think that relates to community too, because we can be thankful for the community we have around us, and we can also be giving ourselves to the people around us. Because God can use someone else to make a way for you, but he can also use you to make a way for someone else. I think that's what he wants for you this morning. And I would like to finish up with a picture of the wall of love. Oh, yes. This is our wall of love. This greets Lance and I and anyone else who comes into our home. And this is all the pictures of the people God has used to make a way in our lives. It goes more up the wall, but I couldn't get it all. And we have a mirror because every person that comes in our life, I believe God can use them to make a way for us and to be a part of our community. And we love every person who comes in our house. But I don't have a list of names like Matthew wrote out in the Bible, but I do have this wall of pictures. And this is my proof that God has used community to make a way in my life. And I want to encourage you this morning to see the community around you, to take a look around this room, think about the people you work with, the people in your family, the people in your neighborhood. Who has God used to make a way in your life? And where does he want to use you to make a way in someone else's lives? I think that's it. So I'm going to pray. Will you guys join me in prayer? Hey, God, thank you so much that we get to be here together this morning. Thank you for the way you can make in each of our lives and the way that you can use community to completely change our lives. Thank you that we get to be together this morning. Thank you for all the things in our lives, God, and the way that you can use us to change someone else's lives, and for all the people you've put in our lives. I pray that you empower us this week to see the people you've put in our lives, that we can look at them and be thankful for them, and maybe even let them know how God has used them, that we are just so thankful for them. And let us see the people in our lives where you want us to make a way for them. Let us see people and opportunities where we can be filled with your Spirit and used to change the lives of others. We love you so much. Thank you for the privilege of expanding your kingdom right here in this city and getting to be on mission with you every single day. We love you so much. Amen.